Hey YouTube. So I want to talk about one other thing, and that's dial indicators. So this one is an actual real-life starret. It's small, it's really well made. I've got to say it's significantly better than my Chinesium one that I paid $40 for. Of course, the dial indicator, yeah, it only has whatever that is, like a quarter-inch worth of movement on this one. And that dial indicator cost me $100. Not cheap. And then the actual base and arm, I think I paid $60 used for that. Whereas, this Chinesium one, all of that, including the dial indicator, I paid $40. But I can also tell you that this starret dial indicator is way better. It's 1,000,000,000 times better. Everything about this thing is more precise. It's much more stable. It's much more accurate. For example, let's see here if I can't do this. All right, lay it over. So what I'm going to try to do, get out of my own light, is I'm just moving the plunger sideways. You notice the needle doesn't move. All right, so now I'm going to go over here to this one. So this is my Chinesium one I'm using as a depth gauge. And all I'm doing is moving it sideways. So you see the needle moving? I'm not pushing up. I'm moving sideways, and you can see the needle move. Now I've taken this thing apart, and it's not like there's full of garbage inside. No, it's actually got nicely machined little parts in there. But when it comes down to the level of precision of the components inside, this has got nothing on this. There's a reason why this little dial indicator cost me $100 used. Somebody else has had it for a long time before I got it, but it still cost me $100. Whereas this whole thing and the dial indicator cost me $45. It's because the level of precision here is so much better. So this is probably the only thing that's like expensive that I've bought, and I'd have to say that it's been worth it because it's way more stable. This arm, everything about it's thicker, it's bigger, it's less precise, and it's also less stable. But the only thing that this is really good for is maybe adapting this magnetic base. Really what I'm thinking about doing is, it's stable enough for me to take like my USB microscope and clamping it on here so that I have a nice base that I can like place and stuff. It'd work really good for that. But for a dial indicator, it's pretty much shit. This is way, way better. So when you're looking at dial indicators, some of you, depending what you're using it for, if you're looking for something where you can just like put a plunger on your drill press, like I did here, so you've got a depth of cut, the cheapy one's good enough. But if you're looking for something like what I did with this guy down here, to get the run out on that thing just nearly completely zeroed out, well, that dial indicator was more trouble than it was worth, straight up. Because of this right here. This is how I actually discovered that problem. Because, I'm rotating this around, which means that I'm stroking sideways on the plunger, and I'm seeing that happen. Just by moving sideways on the plunger, I'm seeing the needle move, and it was throwing off my measurements and getting this thing zeroed in. Whereas the starret, well, as I just showed you, you move it sideways on there, and the needle doesn't move. Anyway, yeah, my first several times of trying to zero this thing in, I did it with that cheapy one, and it was driving me nuts. I wasn't getting it close. It was the error in the slop for the cheapy gauge or the cheapy dial indicator was enough to keep me from ever getting that zeroed in. And in between time, I had bought this starret, and it still took me a while to zero the thing in, but then I got it right the first time. It wasn't just constant trial and error to get it while trying to overcome a stupid dial indicator. So this was definitely worth the purchase just for that alone, and I've since used it many other times. Like all the times in my videos where you hear me talk about such and such got such and such amount of run out, that was done here. Not with this, because this is, well, it's crap. Good enough for the plunge indication for my depth of cut, not good for much else. I don't really recommend buying a cheapy $40 dial indicator. It's probably, it's probably okay, but it's going to be a lot of trial and error. It's going to have its own errors built in that are going to cause problems that are constantly going to get you in trouble, keeping you from making the best results you can really do with what you've got. And Start is just bloody awesome, period. So yeah, for dial indicators, Start or one of the other big, Mitutomo, I think it is. Get one of those expensive name ones that like all the big machinists use. That part, I would absolutely say, don't buy the Chinesium stuff, buy the good stuff. Especially for, when you actually need to know whether you've got run out or whether you actually need to know the depth of the cut is really consistent, buy the real thing. Don't buy the Chinesium one, because it's going to be more trouble for you than it's not.